Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
A lot of people going through lots of challenges now. Maybe it's you, maybe a friend, family member. As she put it before we even got on here, talking about what we're going to talk about, it's just heavy. There's like a heaviness going on. And when you send somebody positive energy, even just saying to somebody, I'm praying for you, or, wishing you the best, you're sending positive energy, makes a big difference. We're going to talk about that and so much more today. She's the owner of Pathways for Wellness. She is a spiritual and addiction recovery coach, and Debbie Peters is back with us. Welcome back, Debbie. How are you?
Good. Hi. How are you, Steve?
I am good. And, this whole energy thing, I'm a believer in it. You're a believer in it. As I've learned, as we've talked before, people kind of shy away from some of this woo-woo stuff, but it's been happening for centuries. When you say to somebody, hey, I'm praying for you, positive outcome on your surgery, you're sending positive energy. It's an exchange of energy. You're putting it out there. Same thing when somebody does Reiki using their hands, virtually or in person. It's energy that's going in to heal. Have you noticed it's been a little heavier, muckier, more challenging in the last couple of weeks?
I have noticed it. I've kind of noticed it a little bit with myself because I try to keep my energy vibrating as high as possible. I mean, I'm human, so I still get into bad moods and
Sure. Oh yeah.
have my witching hours. But I've noticed it just with people around me. And whether it be in crowds or just people passing comment, I really have noticed the heaviness.
Whether you believe in it or not, astrologically, there's a Mercury retrograde going on right now. I don't know if you've heard that term.
Yep, I'm familiar. Yes.
And this one, and I've talked to quite a few astrologers, and it's been going on for about 2 weeks. We have another week or so to go. Okay. And then there's the pre-phase, the post-phase. But this one, even more so, because it's not just the planet Mercury appearing to spin backwards and screw things up, if you will. Other planets are doing the same thing. I don't know how many. I lost count, maybe like 6. And all of the end of full moon, last week, all of this is going on right now. And it is weighing heavy on people. So I think I'm feeling the same exact thing. It's just like sometimes you feel out of sorts, and it's just like it'll be gone soon enough. But I'm told, and again, astrology is a science, that when it passes through, in another, say, 2 weeks, we'll be completely clear. It is going to open the doorway to a lot of good things, a lot of positivity. Big changes apparently are coming. We'll wait and find that out. But yeah, people are hard on each other. And it shouldn't have to be that way, right?
No, I've been doing a lot of reading and a little bit of researching, and I think I've mentioned in the past, like, I'm not an avid reader where I can pick up a book and, read the whole thing from start to finish, especially at night. So many of my friends are like, oh, read a book before you go to sleep. And I'm like, I can't do that.
We're like carbon copies. I'm the same exact way. And I've had the same book sitting on my table in my living room like 3 weeks now. And I keep passing by like, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? And then my birthday was over the weekend. My daughter gave me a book, Atomic. Oh, I can't think of the name of it, but it's a very motivating book. And it was almost like a kick in my head. That's like, you need to start reading this kind of stuff. But I'm just like you. And I wish I wasn't like that. I wish we could just be able to sit down and read a book.
So yeah, we could talk about so many different things. So just really quick, getting to reading a book, start off with one page. And so if you say, I wish that I could do that, you're giving yourself energy that you already can't, because you're saying, I wish I could pick up a book and, be an avid reader like other people. So when you say that, you're already telling yourself that you can't do it. So you could say, I I will, not even I will, because that means you're not doing it. You could say, I'm an avid reader, even though you may not be, but you're telling your brain. So the
Hmm.
more you tell yourself, I am an avid reader, I enjoy reading books, hopefully when you get to that picking it up and reading a couple of pages, it's because our brains are, we've talked about this too, our brains are so powerful.
Yep.
And I believe, some people may disagree, and that's fine, everybody's entitled to their own opinions, but I believe the more we tell ourselves, again, I am healthy, I am happy, and repeat it, even though you may not be, our brains process that information. And
Yep.
there's a whole, there is science behind it. Again, I'm not a scientist, I'm not really good at explaining everything behind it. um I've tried certain things on my own, and I know they work. I
Yes.
know they work.
Can I share
um
one other thing?
sure.
And this came out like 2 weeks ago, that if you have struggles reading a book, that if you pick up the book and you can get through 17 pages or say 38 minutes, you will finish the book. You just got to get over that hump. It was research that was done recently, and it popped my eyes out because we're like that, but it's hard to get into a book and then continue it. But it's 17 pages and 38 minutes. If either one, if you can get through either one, you're good to go. So I figured I'd share it. Just popped in my head, reminded me.
Yeah, and the thing is too, find a book that you like to read. And even if you have to, whether you go to the library, go to the bookstore, and just go through books and see if something pops out at you.
Mm,
If you're interested in something and you start reading about it and it's really not catching your attention, find another book. Even there are apps, like, if
mm.
I know in Suffolk County, for instance, like one of the libraries, you can get, it's called the Libby app, and that could be for other places. I'm not sure. I'd say check it out. And you can literally get books for free, even audio books on your phone. You place a hold, or it'll say, borrow now. And it's amazing. And I think that's what really helped me, get started with that.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And thanks for that reminder, because I remember hearing it about a year or so ago, that many libraries around the country offer books online for free.
Yeah.
So yeah, now you don't have an excuse. You can't say, "Oh, I can't afford that book," or "I don't want to spend $20." And what if I don't like it? It's there in your face.
And there's a lot of them too that are on audio. So,
Hmm.
not all of them, but there are some really good books that I was
For
interested,
sure.
that are on audio, and I was like, wow, this is great. So anyway, yeah, just a little
Let's
bit of information there.
Can we go back to what you said, Debbie, about rewiring your brain, where we're giving the example of reading a book and doing it in a positive way, not coming from a place of lack. I wish I could, but I will, or I plan to. But that whole thing that takes place, I guess the neuroscience or whatever's going on in your brain when you put the positive statements in there continually, keep pushing it, uh, how it just reconnects itself and then forms those good habits. Can you tell us, more about that?
So again, I'm not a scientist. If you there's somebody named Dr. Joe Dispenza
Yes.
who explains a lot of this. He's phenomenal, and you can watch him on YouTube. Um, so I so I'll speak from my experience, uh, about, well, one thing too I want to say is, it's everybody's birthright to be peaceful, to be happy, that everybody deserves love, and to be loved. So for instance, um I've had a couple of, minor surgeries, and some of them were painful, but I would say to myself, I am healthy, I am pain free. not I am not in pain, because if I'm not in pain, then I'm kind of saying to myself, well, you're telling yourself that you're not in pain because you are, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, if you really get focus on it, and it takes time, nothing's, it says, if you do that and it doesn't work, don't give up on it, because I mentioned it to a relative, and this individual would say, I'm tired, I'm so exhausted, and I'm like, okay, uh say I am awake, I am cheerful, because it takes time. All these years, depending on how old someone is, it takes years for all that to be, I guess you want to say, imprinted, or planted in our brains and our memory. All this has just kind of been embedded. So you're not going to just wake up one morning and it's going to be a week or two or a month where, if you keep telling yourself, I am happy, I am peaceful, I am loved, I am worthy. It's not. It takes time. It takes time.
Mm.
Uh, I've put stuff in, like, I've written it down in a card, and I've put it in my wallet. I at times have put it on a mirror. That was, somebody was saying that's the best thing to do. Is just post it. Uh, some people may say, oh, that's crazy, but it does help people. And
What do
again,
you have to lose? And
exactly.
it's it almost sounds a little bit like manifestation. And I've I've heard people do things like this, where what you're saying, write it down on a piece of paper, put it underneath their bed. Want to meet somebody special. I know two women that have done that. And these are normal women. They're not, they have told me, each of them has said within a week or so, maybe two tops, they met their life partner.
And Steve, I think what's really important too is your belief. You not to question it, and that you believe. You have to have belief and hope. You have to believe that it will happen, and it's not necessarily going to happen on your terms. So that's like expectations. Like, if someone expects something, um and it doesn't happen in a month or 2 months, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen down the road. I
Yeah.
firmly believe that things, when you can let go of worry and the anxiety of all this, things do fall into place. But, so many people struggle between depression and anxiety, and just the world that we live in is so stressful. But if you take time to just kind of sit there, just be, and
Mm.
focus on, what can you do for yourself, to get, what does inner peace look like for you? What does happiness look like for you? And really start to kind of do some digging into your inner self. I really believe that there's at least one or two things that you could be happier with, more at peace with. And the more you practice these things, the easier it becomes. So
Mm. Mm.
it almost becomes automatic, but it takes time. And a lot of people, sadly, it's, we live in a world, you press a button, now you want to buy something. I mean, it's at the hands of your phone. You have something can be delivered to you the same day or maybe the next day, and it took you maybe 30 seconds. So kind of like stepping back and just being patient and rewinding.
Yeah. Do you find, Debbie, that for a lot of people, this is a challenge because they're not sure what they want?
That could be.
Hmm.
you know um I'm trying to think of what book I was reading, and it talked about, people think that they want a big house or they
Hmm.
want that fancy car. when in reality, it's really not what they want. So I've been stressed years ago. I mean, I had this thing where I loved buying dishes, and if I wasn't happy, I'd have to go shopping. I'd go shopping and I'd make a purchase, and a week later I'd be like, what did I do? So I was purchasing to kind of fill whatever was going on, and at the time I didn't know that I could have just sat back and said, hold on a minute here, you know why am I doing this? Like, same thing with eating, and same thing with substance use.
Yeah.
Picking up to numb the pain, or because you can't, someone can't um acknowledge what is truly hurting them. So it's so much easier, to pick up a drink or a drug to numb the pain of what's going on. And it's the issue is still there afterward. So what do they do? Okay, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. Let me self-medicate again. So sadly, it's a vicious cycle, but that vicious cycle can stop.
For sure. I love what you said. I want to go back to what you said before about us thinking we know what we want. And I can tell you from personal experience, the house, the white fence, the pets, the happy situation, it's a facade. For most people, it's a dream that you think you want that, but really what it comes down to, you just want to be happy. And if you're not happy and experiencing peace and joy in your life, all that is garbage. It means absolutely nothing. It means absolutely nothing. And I look at Jimmy Buffett, and I've been reading a lot more about him lately. He got lucky. He got lucky and found all this, but he and his sister were both dealing with cancer at the same time. She got diagnosed different cancer around the same time 4 years ago. And she said that all of this stuff, he didn't never need it all. $1 billion, no, that's not him. She said, even that he was diagnosed with all of this, he was still upbeat and positive to his final breath, because that's the way he lived his life, in a very positive way. Yeah, okay, it makes it easier with all that money, but it doesn't matter if you don't have that in your life.
And I will say something, because you said, it makes it easier. It might make it easier with all that money, but what I think is so important is realizing that as much money that someone has, it does not help. It didn't get him 5 years, 10 years. It didn't stop the illness from progressing. So sometimes, like I said, I'm human. I still have my bad days, or whatever you want to call them. And I still sometimes, have to really step back and say, all right, hold on a second. And then I think, all the money that someone could be a billionaire, but if you are diagnosed, with an illness, that money, yes, it could make it a little easier, have you access to healthcare, but it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't.
So,
and who is a great example? I just wanted I shared, like, where you, I didn't mean to cut you off. You're right.
No, that's
at
fine.
That moment. Steve Jobs, Apple. A quote from him has come up because he was very affluent, like Jimmy Buffett. And, he passed. That money did help through experimental treatment prolong his life a little more. But when he was, hours from dying, he said from his deathbed that it doesn't matter whether you have a $500,000 car or the $30,000 car, you're going to get to the same place. True. It doesn't, all of these things don't matter. And realize that, people, he had it all, and then he had nothing, and so, to your point, it's kind of a wake-up call, and if all people, Jimmy Buffett, that brought so much joy and happiness. I'm still in shock. I have to tell you, I still like. Yeah,
I a lot of people are, including myself. I think because I think my son, my daughter-in-law might have gone to see him in concert. And my other son was planning on going, and he was just like, he can't believe it, you know. But getting back to, I just really, I can't stress enough that people, you know, individuals, again, some people just, they want to go their own way, they want to do their own thing, they don't care, you know, or maybe they're so hurt, they're hurting so bad that they don't know where to turn, and ask, you know, for somebody to help them or support them. But I really believe that we all have it in us to change things, so we do have some sort of inner peace or the happiness that we've been longing for. And it's not that car, and it's not that house.
You think it is, though. You think.
You're right. So you
Yeah.
have that, you know, that's why I'll ask people, well, what does happiness look like to you? And they could, you know, anything from, well, just being able to walk on the beach and enjoy an afternoon. And then, you know, I'll say, well, don't you have you, do you do that? Do you practice that? Well, I don't have time, or, you know, I'm so busy. And so we
You're
talk
reading my
about,
mind. You're reading my mind, because I say it all the time. And I just texted somebody before and said, I am taking a day next week and I'm going kayaking. And my Jeep was busted. It's a piece of junk, but I use it just for kayaking. Don't even go, never have time. Just put like $500 into it. And I'm going because it's going to get cold out. But just what you said, that's exactly what I said. I don't have time. You have to find the time.
right. And it doesn't have to be a whole day. I mean, you
Right.
know, there's studies about just going out in nature, you know, being able to stand on the grass, just listen. I work I work in an office that it's usually cold, and when, you know, going outside, people are like, why are you going outside? It's so hot out. And I'm like, I need that fresh air. And I'm not
Mhm.
thinking. So first of all, because I'm not already thinking, oh my gosh, it's so hot, I'm not going to be able to tolerate it. Because what have I already done? I've set the stage that it's going to be too hot and I'm going to sweat and not tolerate it. So I go outside thinking of something completely different. I'm going to look at the trees, I'm going to listen to the birds, and I distract myself from that. And I've kind of done little experiments with that. In the winter, I don't wear a winter jacket. And people are like, well, aren't you cold? I am busy running around, and at times where it's cold, I go and I'm like, oh, it's freezing out, it's cold. And all of a sudden I'm like, holy crap, I'm cold. So, you know,
I'm
you could do
amazed how
these.
we think the same, because I don't think I wore a coat maybe one day, 2 days last winter, maybe. The rest of the time could have been a hoodie or just sweatshirt or something like that. But you know, like maybe it was a little warmer that winter. I don't know. But I just felt I didn't need it. And to your point, what you just said, you just need to get fresh air. I think it's more you need to get grounded. And that's why
Mhm.
people always say, well, I'm getting back to nature. And I never really understood it. Now I get it. There's
Right.
something about it, being in nature, and this thing called grounding yourself, and how it's so important. And I try to tell my daughter, you know, teenagers nowadays in their room, dark, on their phone. I'm like, go outside. Just go outside for 10 minutes. Take the dog for a
And
walk.
that's it, right? It could be it could be 5 minutes, you know, like you said,
Right.
5 minutes, 10
Right.
minutes. It doesn't have to be. That's why I know too, in the past, we've talked about like practicing mindfulness over meditation, because
Mm,
people hear meditation and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't quiet my mind. You know, how am I
sure.
going to stop thinking? You don't have to stop thinking. You know, it's about just acknowledging those thoughts, letting them pass, and just coming back. And you could even picture yourself grounded. You could picture roots coming out of your feet and going into mother, you know, into earth, and going into the center of the earth. And,
Mm,
you know, if you don't want to use the word grounding, use stabilizing, you know, yourself.
yeah.
Anything that makes, because there's no right or wrong way, number one. That's my belief. And if it brings you a little bit of peace, a little bit of calmness, it's what works for you.
I'm glad you said that. We're just about out of time. I want to talk about the Debbie swag that you have available in a moment. But what you just said, there's no wrong way because it's about the intention. Like I have aromatherapy spray right here. This is the essential oils are organic, not selling anything, just as an example. I buy from somebody I know, I trust. Yeah, there's certain oils in here that have a calming effect, but this could be dishwater. If your intent is to calm when you spray it, the result can be the same. Same thing with walking outside. I'm sitting on a grounding mat. Not even kidding. I really am. And it plugs into the wall, the ground lug on the outlet. I think it helps ground. I don't know if it does. Can't hurt. $20. But if it wasn't even plugged in, if you're thinking it, you're already halfway there with your intention that you set.
Absolutely. And they talk about placebo effects where they'll give somebody medication, say it's going to help them. They give someone else a sugar pill and say, look, if you take this, it's going to make your headache go away, or it's going to make you feel more at peace. And it works.
It works. Thank you for saying that. I forgot about that. That is exactly kind of what we're talking about. You have some new stuff aside from helping people, coaching people through a lot of challenges. Yeah, tell us about that.
So real quick. So on my website, pathwaysforwellness.com, I opened up a shop because my motto, my logo, so I have a bag here, is I have too much to accomplish in my life. I do not have time to age. So I firmly believe that. I've shared in the past, went to school, raised my family, went to school, got my degree after I was 50. And I'm living to 110, maybe 120. And people like, what, are you crazy? I said, no, I have too much to accomplish. I do not have time to age. And I'm not I when you say belief, I believe that because I feel like I want to be able to help people. I want to be able to support people. I want to be able to show them that, it's their birthright to be happy, to have some sort of inner peace, and, ways to work with them, instead of, saying, oh, like there's no hope. There's plenty of hope, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And one place to start, it was somebody like you that can coach, pull us along the way, accountability. You specialize in people who are dealing with addiction and supporting them in many different ways. But even on the coaching level, I truly believe it's the accountability. You need somebody to reach out sometimes. Did you go outside? No. Well, you should. Somebody to be there.
Or stop for a minute. Take 1 minute, because I've done it with a relative. I said, hang up the phone, go outside for a minute or two, and then either call me back or I'm calling you back. And then you let me know how you feel when you did that. So like you said, accountability, and it's not going to be for everyone. But I feel that being able to, support people, or at least just give them little tidbits of what they can do so they can achieve that good feeling, because it's worth it. It's so worth it.
All the stuff we're talking about, the grounding, the intention, the manifestation, all that. I was always open to that kind of stuff years ago, but I never really believed it. And if I'm first to admit, I'd be like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm busy. I got stuff to do. When I realized it and saw the changes in me and other people, it's like, this stuff is real. This is, and a lot of the principles, centuries old. There's nothing new going on here. This is, it's always been happening. That's why people forever, that's why back in the day, before social media, before the technology, before all of that, people, I believe, were healthier and happier because they didn't have all that distractions. They had a tree, they had a book, they sat under the tree, they grounded and learned, and were in a moment. And that's what we need to do. Your website again, Debbie, what's that?
It's pathwaysforwellness.com. My email is info@pathwaysforwellness.com. And my phone number is 631-926-2362.
Let's set an intention for us both that we are going to be so enlightened when we read that next book.
Absolutely.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
It will.
Soon. All right. Thank you so much, Debbie. And
Thanks,
I know
Steve.
we'll connect soon sometime again. I know it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.